emancipation of those in need, of slaves and peasants, victims of greed. Kosciuszko's story, the brotherhood of all the people, the common good, exposing oppressors around the world and spreading stories that should be told.
In 1910, an American visitor appeared at Tadeusz Kościuszko's sarcophagus. The famous African-American social justice advocate Booker T. Washington. On behalf of his people, he placed a carmine rose on the grave of the friend of humanity, about whose contribution he was taught in American schools. Now, 200 years after the death of this friend of humanity, Tadeusz Kosciuszko, a deputation of visitors from far-off Australia, indigenous NGARIGO, who are the traditional custodians of Mt Kosciuszko, are leaving to acquaint themselves with the Wawel Castle crypts, which hold the earthly remains of Tadeusz Kosciuszko. They want to know who he was, what sort of a person he was, because in Australian schools they learn nothing at all about the person after whom explorer Paul Edmund Strzelecki named Australia's highest peak. The organiser of this frantic excursion to Poland, with only 4 days spent in Krakow, is the Sydney-based organisation Kosciuszko Heritage Inc, which for over a decade has been establishing ties of friendship between the traditional owners of the lands of Monaro and the Snowy Mountains, above which Mt Kosciuszko stands dominant. The ancestors of the NGARIGO arrived in the southeast of Australia about 20,000 years ago. They settled on the extensive slopes of the Snowy Mountains and high plains of Monaro, descending all the way to the Pacific Ocean. With grants pre-arranged and passports ready, suitcases packed, they can speed to the airport. Oops, someone forgot their passport. What's to be done? At the Moruya airport, on the way to Sydney, they call up her brother. Help! And so, with passport in pocket, the brother speeds along the asphalt highway and arrives in the nick of time. Now all are assembled. The leader of the Indigenous expedition, Iris White, her son, Jesse, painter Cheryl Davison, David Dixon, his wife Diana, and his daughter Michelle, all from the south coast. The guardian of the Indigenous group is Acacia Rose from Jindabyne, who, 2 months earlier, led guests from the Kosciuszko Mound to the Kosciuszko Mountain Peak. There are 3 representatives of the Kosciuszko Heritage Organisation: Professor Andrzej Kozek, Felix Molski, as well as the main organiser and head of the Australian delegation, Ernestyna Skurjat-Kozek, not in the best shape, distressed by a gastric attack and dependent on a wheelchair after a recent operation on her leg. There are also 2 cameramen, Mark and Kris Kamma, who are responsible for the important task of documenting this historic excursion. What are my friends thinking when they gaze below? Is it about their lands? The traditional grounds of the NGARIGO encompass 16,000 kilometres square, just a little more than the lesser Poland voivodeship. These lands include the Monaro Plain, as well as the Snowy Mountains. Quite a substantial home, truly, from the sea to the mountain peaks. For thousands of years, their ancestors journeyed over hundreds of kilometres. Here in summer, there for the winter. Here were tasty bogong moths, there delicious fruits of the sea, and trekking onwards once again. When the era of invasion and annexation began, the colonists built reserves. They drove the native people into crowded camps behind barbed fences to more easily control them cheaply and effectively. Soon they began to classify the people by their skin colour. People who were full-blooded Aborigines were left in the reserves. Those with lighter visages were pushed out to the cities to form a cheap labour force. Thus classified, families were torn apart. A caller from the city could not even visit their mother or father without permission from the reserve administrator. Speech in the mother tongue was forbidden. Because of this, traditions, culture and languages began vanishing. We explained to our friends that under foreign domination in partitioned Poland, we had similar problems. Why are we flying to Poland? We are going to Wawel Castle and to the Kosciuszko Mound to participate in the celebrations of the 200th anniversary of the death of Kosciuszko. We will also be taking part in the International Conference. Apart from that, there will be receptions, concerts, banquets, exhibitions, the whole package meticulously crammed into 4 days. We are flying in relative comfort over the shortest route with one transfer in Dubai. Unfortunately, Ernestyna cannot integrate into the group of travellers. The invalid is pulled by alternative arms along different corridors. Finally, Warsaw. Here we have an effervescent welcome from the president of the Kosciuszko Foundation of Poland, Dr. Leszek Krześniak, along with the composer Bolesław Szulia, who was one of the adjudicators of the Kosciuszko competition. At the airport, a small bus is awaiting to take us to Krakow. The driver is responsible for regenerating his energy along the way, so we too can take advantage of a break in our journey. On the outskirts of Radom stands an old Polish tavern, Bankrut or Bankrupt. Ernestyna and company praise the borscht as an exotic novelty and are surprised to hear that Cheryl cultivates beetroot in her garden. At last we get to Krakow. At the hotel, we are treated to dinner and meet the event organisers, the president of the Kosciuszko Mound Committee, Mieczysław Rokosz, and the director, Leszek Cierpiałowski, as well as Anna Fischer-Rokosz, a wonderful trio whom we had the pleasure of receiving in Australia, the 12th of October. In today's programme, there are attractive events at the Kosciuszko Mound. Ernestyna, with her twisted entrails, has to remain in bed and wait for the medication provided by Dr. Krześniak to take effect. Everyone else has a fabulous day. David Dixon is excited by an excursion to the top of the Kosciuszko Mound, which, he has been informed, is the symbolic resting place of the friend of humanity.
Hi, I'm David. I'm in Krakow, Poland, and I'm going to be journeying up to a place called Kosciuszko, and we've been invited by the Polish Association to attend over here for the celebrations of Kosciuszko and to build our relationship with the Polish community because of the naming of the mountain in the Australian Alps after Kosciuszko, and we're trying to learn a lot more about the man Kosciuszko, and what we've learned so far is really good things about the Polish culture, Polish people, and about Kosciuszko and who he was. So far it's been a great experience and something that we'll treasure for the rest of our lives.
The celebrations at the Mound are charming and poignant. Polish flags, standards and pennants are flying everywhere. Our guests have the opportunity to hear the Polish national anthem played by the Army Orchestra.
Baczność. Do hymnu.
The core of the day is the christening of a new variety of rose named Tadeusz, which is reverently planted on the mound. Łukasz Rojewski worked on this scion for 10 years. The result, dark burgundy flowers with an intense scent.
To jest tak zwana floribunda, czyli róża gałązkowa, wielokwiatowa i róża gruntowa. Jest bardzo odporna, wytrzymała na nasze trudne warunki zimowe, bardzo silnie powtarzająca kwitnienie, o pięknej rozecie. Bardzo ładnie słońce operuje też, ponieważ kwiatki są lekko aksamitne, w związku z tym w zagłębieniach tworzą się cienie. Dzięki temu ta róża ciekawie i majestatycznie wygląda. Ja zacząłem hodować 10 lat temu róże. Po raz pierwszy mamy sytuację w ogóle w powojennej Polsce, że te chrzciny są, róże właśnie wyglądają w ten sposób. Chrzciny, czyli nadanie imienia, prawda, tak bardzo oficjalne.
The godmothers for this rose are Anna Arczyńska, a descendant of Tadeusz Kosciuszko's beloved sister, Anna Estkova, and Dr. Betsy Blakesley, the custodian of the garden established by Tadeusz Kosciuszko on a cliff shelf above the River Hudson. Tadeusz Kosciuszko loved nature. He designed parks and gardens wherever he was. He cultivated flowers. He created a rose plantation in Berville, France, where he nurtured his roses for 15 years. He also had roses in the garden at West Point, thought to be the oldest garden still existing in America. It is said that he tended roses in his flower beds at his Salura home. He gladly wore their blooms in the buttonholes of his old, tattered coat. Let us return to the mound. The Tadeusz rose is ceremonially watered with a flood of champagne to the melody of a polonaise, composed, of course, by Tadeusz Kosciuszko. Witnessing this event are not only the Aborigines from Mt Kosciuszko, but also throngs of young people from all over Poland, from 22 schools, with Tadeusz Kosciuszko as their patron. The students from secondary school number 4, named in honour of Tadeusz Kosciuszko, must give their oath to remain true to Tadeusz Kosciuszko and his ideals. And after that, whilst carrying flaming torches, together with the multitudes of teenagers and adults, they will wander up the picturesque serpentine pathways to the peak of the mound, where they will place wreaths and flowers.
Do tradycji obchodów narodowych w Krakowie należy zlot młodzieży polskiej, aby jego uczestnicy przenieśli w następne pokolenia pamięć o wydarzeniu, w którym uczestniczyli. Nie mogło więc nie dojść do tego waszego spotkania w Krakowie i tutaj pod mogiłą Kościuszki z okazji 200-lecia jego śmierci.
W pewnym mieście w szkole podstawowej, przy słodko brzmiącej ulicy Miodowej, w głównym holu z tablicy pamiątkowej spoglądał śmiało w dal. Patronem szkoły był ów wielki generał. Każdy uczeń znał wszystkie jego czyny, a z muzycznej klasy śpiew dobiegał. Tak na chórze śpiewały dziewczyny. Insurekcja to wolności lekcja. Saratoga, tu nie stanie noga wroga. Wracławice pokonał carycę, a West Point to jego kunsztu pomnik.
And so our indigenous guests are standing on top of the mound and gazing at Kraków from 33 metres above sea level. Thousands of kilometres away, on the other side of the world, Mt Kosciuszko is basking in the October sunshine and reminding us that soon we must return there to the Kosciuszko festival and the helicopter flights awaiting us together with the Aborigines. And so we circulate like a boomerang, from the mountain to the mound, from the mound to the mountain, a symbolic bridge in the ether. We will hear more about this symbolic bridge at the official banquet, laid on by the directors of the Kosciuszko Mound in honour of the conference participants, who will meet and mingle today, so that tomorrow they can become like one inclusive family.
Braćmi, serdecznymi przyjaciółmi ze szczepu NGARIGO, z klanu NGARIGO, w związku z ich obecnością tutaj mamy nadzieję zacząć budować nowe przęsło wielkiego mostu, który będzie z Krakowa do Australii biegł.
Friday, the 13th of October, we get together in the early morning at the municipal seat, otherwise known as the elegant historic conference chamber of the Krakow Assembly. We, the representatives of Kosciuszko associations from all the corners of the globe, from Australia, Belarus, Brazil, France, Ireland, Poland, Russia, Switzerland, and the United States of America. Over the next 2 days, we will disclose how we all promote Tadeusz Kosciuszko in our homelands and how we maintain his legacy. The guests are greeted by the main organisers, the Mayor of Kraków, Professor Jacek Majchrowski, the President of the Kosciuszko Mound Organisation, Professor Mieczysław Rokosz, and Professor Jacek Purchla, a great affiliate of UNESCO. The words of Professor Purchla will certainly be remembered by our Aboriginal associates. He reminded the attendants that among the fruits of the 41st session of the World Heritage Committee on Cultural Heritage was a resolution to administer local cultural heritage in consultation with the indigenous peoples. Professor Purchla added that Kosciuszko's symbols of equality, freedom and brotherhood are the mottos for 195 countries. The next speaker to come up to the podium is Iris White, representing the indigenous NGARIGO. She proclaims the friendly relationship between the NGARIGO clan, who are the custodians of Mt Kosciuszko, with the Polish diaspora in Australia. It is only my second day here, and I have fallen in love with Kraków. I am astounded by the personage of Tadeusz Kosciuszko and his legacy. I would like to learn more, and I'm sorry that both my countrymen and the whole of Australia know so little about this hero. Iris reminded us of the first contact with the Polish diaspora. From our side, there was such a dose of wariness, she said. However, from the Polish side, there was so much unbelievable affection and hospitality. The desire for contact and cooperation only arose after a certain time, said Iris. The culmination of this alliance is the joint venture to Kraków. I look through the glass of the interpreter's booth, in awe of how hard they are working. I observe the interest shown by the Aboriginal delegation at the following presentations and how they are absorbing knowledge regarding Tadeusz Kosciuszko that we would never be able to convey locally in Australia. Thus they absorb the speech given by the Mayor of Solura, the town in which the Friend of Humanity died. They have an exceptional opportunity to get acquainted with acknowledged American Kosciuszko advocates, such as Dr. Betsy Blakesley and Professor Tony Baidek. Betsy, heading the Friends of the American Revolution at West Point, raises money for conservation work for this key strategic post during the American War of Independence, which is the fortress of West Point, built according to Tadeusz Kosciuszko's designs. Annual celebrations beneath the monument to Tadeusz Kosciuszko at West Point are organised by Professor Tony Baidek, the president of the American Association of Friends of Kosciuszko at West Point. Of huge benefit is the presence of the respected academics from Petersburg, Dr. Ali Shalayeva and Professor Leonid Vyskochkov. It is surprising to hear how Kosciuszko's imprisonment in Russia is portrayed by Russians themselves. As it turns out, we now have contacts with Moscow.
Jedziemy do Moskwy. Udało nam się zorganizować, jesteśmy jako fundacja współorganizatorem konferencji kościuszkowskiej w Moskwie. Byliśmy w czerwcu, pani doktor również wygłaszała referat w Mińsku, w Akademii Nauk. W Mińsku odbyła się sesja kościuszkowska, na którą, proszę państwa, przyszedł prezes Akademii I z takim wielkim szacunkiem na Białorusi się odnoszą do Tadeusza Kościuszki.
Dr. Barbara Klosowicz-Krzywicka from France spoke about the renovation of a chapel near Bovy that is dedicated to Tadeusz Kosciuszko, erected to thank the leader for protecting the local peasants from the ravaging Russian army attack. This chapel has just been renovated from the funds donated by the Polish Ministry of Culture and National Heritage. There are over 200 such places of remembrance, monuments and plaques scattered around the world. They were documented by Felix Molski, an Australian, who tracked them down one by one, and this was the theme for Felix Molski's address. After a discussion and a quickly consumed lunch, we rush off to the Historic Museum of the city of Krakow, where we have been treated to free entry to the exhibition Kosciuszko Conscientious and Romantic. In respect of the year of Tadeusz Kosciuszko, over 300 items have been borrowed from over 20 Polish and international museums, so we have the opportunity to see the iconic hat Tadeusz Kosciuszko wore, a hank of his hair, a letter to King Poniatowski, a plan of the residence and garden for General Gates, a hospital project at West Point, a caricature of General Charles Lee. Thus Kosciuszko the Conscientious. As a soldier, as an engineer, as a surveyor with protractor, set square, measured angles, telescope and compass. As we read in one of the reviews, when you want to prepare earthworks, pour a foundation, a rosary cannot help, but a logarithmic table may. Nearby, Kosciuszko the Romantic, the painter and composer, a lover of women's song and dance, a player of many instruments. Here we see a portrait of Ludwika Sosnowska, the beloved of Kosciuszko, whom her father espoused against her will to Prince Joseph Lubomirski. A portrait of the prince can also be found here. Kosciuszko often described his unquenchable love for Ludwika to his American friends amid the hush of his garden on the rocky cliffs above the Hudson. This romantic Kosciuszko made a strong impression on Iris.
Yesterday I was in the museum. I was fascinated by a love story that Ernestina shared with me about a young Tadeusz Kosciuszko and a love that I believe lasted a lifetime. And I jokingly shared, so please understand our humour, I guess, from Australia. And I had a little chuckle to myself, a laugh, because I'm leaving this place and I go home to my husband and I have now to tell my husband that I've fallen in love with another man. And I hope to introduce him over time to Tadeusz Kosciuszko, and I hope that he will come on that journey and love story with me.
Those who still have the energy dash from the museum to the famous Krakow plantings, where, taking example from Mayor Majchrowski and President Rokosz, we grab spades to give tribute to Kosciuszko by planting a living monument in the form of a London plane tree. Professor Rokosz informed us that Tadeusz Kosciuszko once planted a tree in Krakow. Unfortunately, this tree did not survive the Second World War. It was destroyed by the Nazis. No, it is not yet time to return home. In the ancient and imposing Jagiellonian Hall, in the Collegium Maius, we are enchanted by a concert titled A Musical Journey in the Footsteps of Kosciuszko. The Ars Activa Foundation had prepared this concert under the honourable patronage of the Minister of National Culture and Heritage, Professor Piotr Gliński. Thus we travel in Kosciuszko's tracks across Poland, France, America, Russia and Switzerland. In the programme we encounter brilliant works from composers originating in these countries, yet also Kosciuszko's own compositions. On stage, the violinist Mariusz Monczak, pianist Robert Adamczak, coloratura soprano Alejandrina Vasquez, and actress Marta Artyniak. Before the concert begins, Professor Rokosz gifts us with some souvenirs from the Kosciuszko Mound organization. One of these is a set of a teacup with an emblazoned portrait of Kosciuszko and the matching saucer bearing Kosciuszko's signature. We are gathering a stack of such presents. With every event we attend, each consortium will reciprocate with gifts. So we end up running around town with packages of commemorative medallions, albums and cups, which then mound up on our suitcases. Saturday, 14th October, the second day of the conference. Successive lectures and speeches, we recognise several highly respected personages. Dr. Konopka from the museum at Solur, Dr. Żongołowicz from Melbourne, with a presentation about Konsul Noskowski and Mt Kosciuszko, telling us how Australian children raised funds to produce a plaque to be hung in commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the discovery of Australia's highest peak in February of 1940. Dr. Krześniak promoted a recent publication printed by the Polish Kosciuszko Foundation, Disputes Surrounding Tadeusz Kosciuszko by Dr. Longina Ordon. A total shock was the address by Dr. Healy from Galway University regarding the cult of Kosciuszko in Ireland. Astounding! Every topic heralded a new sensation. The anticipated compendium of conference presentations will be worth its weight in gold. It is expected that this volume will be published by the Kosciuszko Mound organization in the not-too-distant future.
Rozmawialiśmy tu o różnych licznych pomnikach Kościuszki na świecie, a ja chciałam powiedzieć, że ideą naszej organizacji, która zorganizowała konkurs m.in. muzyczny, graficzny, literacki Kościuszce w hołdzie jako przyjacielowi ludzkości, i naszym takim hasłem i założeniem było: budujemy nowy pomnik dla Kościuszki, pomnik z wierszy i piosenek. I ten pomnik dodatkowy mamy, radośnie chcę powiedzieć, do tego korpusu wielkich tradycyjnych pieśni kościuszkowskich, w stylu też tradycyjnym, doszła nam teraz wielka masa piosenek współczesnych.
Każdy jemu był ziomalem, choć mu nie był krewnym wcale. Z ordynansem czarnoskórym raz podzielił się mundurem, chociaż nieco wbrew swej woli, lecz gdy ujrzał, to pozwolił chodzić w generalskiej szacie i do sługi mówił: bracie.
We have a visitor from Kwidzyn joining us. Barbara Lipińska-Postawa with her husband Tadeusz. An excellent poet laureate, winning 3 prizes in the Kosciuszko Bicentenary competition, visiting Kraków at the behest of the Kosciuszko Mound organization. Thus we have the great pleasure of meeting the author of the words to the winning songs: There is no Poland without Kosciuszko, Lullaby for Kosciuszko, as well as Idol.
Tak, wspomnienie niezwykłej przygody australijskiej. Tak? Prosimy bardzo.
Bardzo dziękuję pani prezes. Myśmy tam weszli w arktycznych wręcz warunkach, przy huraganowym wietrze, gdzie nawet naszych gajdów zawiodła igła magnetyczna i dzięki GPS-owi we mgle weszliśmy na szczyt.
Nie ma Polski bez Kościuszki, chociaż minął czas już ma. Kto historii przeszedł dróżki, zawsze znajdzie jego ślad. Bez Kościuszki cóż by było, cały naród już nie ten. Czy by wolność się wyśniła i czy spełniłby się sen?
The corridors are teeming with journalists, radio broadcasters and television crews. We are pleased that Iris White has been asked for an interview with Andrzej Kozek to act as her interpreter.
That is Kosciuszko. I am sad that my country does not know this history, and at the same time privileged to be here, to learn more and to be in the company of people who revere this Kosciuszko.
The last dissertations included a seemingly insignificant incident in the life of Kosciuszko, convalescing on Martinique from wounds acquired during a catastrophe aboard the ship that was taking him to America.
Rzeczywiście ten mało znany, a niesłychanie istotny dla losów generała Kosciuszki fakt, prawda, rozbicia się statku żaglowego, który płynął z Francji do Ameryki. To jest o tyle ważne, że jak pan powiedział, jak pan wiceprezes powiedział, gdyby nie dopłynął na resztkach tego masztu do wybrzeży Martyniki, to nie mielibyśmy Kościuszki, więc nie byłoby konferencji. Nie byłoby konferencji, tak.
A z jakim bagażem doświadczeń wyjeżdża z Krakowa delegacja aborygeńska?
I would just like to say on behalf of the NGARIGO people that we will go away from this conference deeply changed and deeply compelled to have a conversation with our elders and our broader community about how our relationship moves forward and how we can now, as the traditional custodians of that land on Mt Kosciuszko in Australia, how we work together to honour that man, and that's what we want to take away from this conference. And we're deeply privileged to have been here and been a part of it.
Our time is shrinking, yet we still have two important functions to attend: a collective singing session at the town market and a banquet offered in our honour by the mayor of Krakow. The time is 1500. At the Krakow market, around the place where Tadeusz Kosciuszko once gave his oath, there is a gathering of 10,000 participants crowned with typically Krakowian hats. High above, Wiesław Majka, the official photographer appointed by the mayor, is preparing to take the enormous commemorative photograph with the extensive banner proclaiming, "We are all Kosciuszko." After a while, the ensemble begins to sing, led by Waldemar Domański, the director of the Polish Song Library, Biblioteka Polskiej Piosenki. Everyone has received a free songbook. Some have also received a special CD edition of songs dedicated to Tadeusz Kosciuszko. Within this special edition, several songs from our Kosciuszko Bicentenary competition have been included. There are also some short films. The archival production of Kosciuszko at Racławice, our film Kosciuszko Poland Will Yet Dance, as well as a revelatory performance of three of Kosciuszko's compositions by the Marlena Quartet.
W związku z 200. rocznicą śmierci Tadeusza Kościuszki przeczesaliśmy nasze zbiory w poszukiwaniu piosenek, które śpiewająco opisują insurekcję naczelnika i generała. Na przestrzeni 100 lat powstało ponad 60 utworów sławiących dzieło naszego bohatera. Mam nadzieję, że Tadeusz Kościuszko będzie idolem nowych pokoleń. Wszyscy jesteśmy Kościuszkami, tylko czasami musimy to sobie przypomnieć.
Dyrektor Domański zaprasza nas na scenę do wspólnego śpiewania.
Nasz Kosciuszko dobry był, bo stary dobrze bił. Już Kościuszki nie mamy, rady sobie nie damy. Już Kościuszki nie mamy, rady sobie nie damy.
Mamy gości. Bardzo prosimy panią Ernestynę i całą załogę, która zdaje się, że z Australii tutaj do nas przybyła.
Prosimy bardzo, tutaj do mikrofonu, pomóżcie tam, żeby pani Ernestyna wyjaśniła, co to za delegacja.
Delegacja niezwykła, bo i okazja niezwykła. Nie mieliście prawa świętować dzisiaj bez nas. My też rodacy, ale z Australii i z naszymi aborygeńskimi przyjaciółmi, którzy są tradycyjnymi kustoszami, właścicielami Góry Kosciuszko! Nasi przyjaciele NGARIGO!
Ernestyny, tu są właściciele Góry Kosciuszko.
Ale nie kłócimy się o tą górę, nie, wszystko jest okej. No.
Proszę Państwa, tak, witamy wszyscy. Tutaj mamy Iris i mamy Michelle. Obydwoje reprezentują plemię klanu NGARIGO, którzy są tradycyjnymi kustoszami Góry Kościuszki. Nasi przyjaciele tutaj przyjechali, proszę ich przywitać i pomachać rękami. O, dziękujemy. Jesteśmy szczęśliwi, że jesteśmy z Wami, możemy z Wami tutaj śpiewać.
No to śpiewajmy, proszę bardzo, do wspólnego zaśpiewania z aborygenami, bo tak mogę powiedzieć chyba. Z plemienia, jakiego plemienia?
NGARIGO.
A co to oznacza, to NGARIGO? Nazwa.
Dzień dobry, Kraków.
Dobrze, ale co to znaczy nazwa tego plemienia? My jesteśmy plemieniem Krakusów.
We don't know what NGARIGO exactly means, but what we learned just a few days ago during a gala in Sydney, where wicemarszałek Senatu, pani Maria Koc, była z nami.
Po polsku.
No właśnie, szykowałam, że coś nie tak. I była mowa o tym, myśmy się dopiero dowiedzieli, że łączy nas orzeł. Mianowicie ich klanowy totem to jest orzeł i nasze godło państwowe jest orzeł i syn Auntie Iris, Jessie, nieobecny, gdzieś tam się chowa po kątach, powiedział do mnie dzisiaj, mówi, to po powrocie będziemy się nawzajem edukowali w swojej kulturze. Ja mówię, dobra, robimy seminarium, wasz orzeł, nasz orzeł i opowiadamy. A on mówi, a ty wiesz, że to nie jest przypadek?
Przyjechała do nas i troszkę ma do góry nogami.
Na ogromnym zmęczeniu, nie tylko podróży, bo to tak prawie 3 dni w podróży, 4 dni na konferencji, teraz trzeba znowu jechać, więc niedospani, zmęczeni, wykończeni, ale konferencja była prima. Niech żyje profesor Rokosz.
Dobrze, śpiewamy, słuchajcie, następna piosenka.
Pomysł, proszę Państwa, w takim razie zaśpiewajmy piosenkę numer 10, bo ta piosenka dotyczy tego, że wszyscy kochają Kościuszkę. Dobrze, przekładamy piosenkę, gdzie do 9 wrócimy, śpiewamy 10.
Zostańcie z nami. Halo, chodźcie.
Ona jest prostsza, możecie śpiewać.
Nie
Nasz
musicie śpiewać.
Kościuszko dzielny był...
Postójcie, popatrzcie się na nasze plemię.
Ona jest...
Choćby nawet słońce zgasło, choćby nawet zginął świat, nie zaginie nagle hasło, ani pamięć dawnych lat. Czas przepływa jak rzeka, stare dzieje o stóp
dream about paying for our guests to take a ride in an enchanted carriage around the magical city of Krakow. We hope they are not too exhausted. We alight, filled with wonder, and enter the banqueting hall of the Historic Museum, where Mayor Jacek Majchrowski has prepared a veritable feast with a wonderful surprise. He is decorating persons who have inordinately contributed to the city of Krakow, and among them are a trio of Aussies, Felix, Andrzej, and Ernestyna. A wonderful ambience, delicious dishes, and a final occasion for casual conversation. Here and there, small gatherings having a blissful tete-a-tete in a fine continental intermingling. Sunday, 15th October. In a moment, everyone will attend a solemn mass in the Krakow Cathedral. Firstly, however, we hear the sonorous tones rung out by the oldest bell of Zygmunt, since this is an exceptional event. Exactly 200 years ago from today, Tadeusz Kosciuszko passed away. Our caravan turns towards the cathedral. Along the way, strict security guarantees our safety. The Mass will be attended by the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, along with his wife, Agata. The organisers direct our Aboriginal guests to the front row. We are treated like actual kings. A procession led by the Archbishop of Krakow, Marek Jędraszewski, progresses towards the altar. His homily will forever remain in our memories. In the context of this anniversary, how do we define ourselves as Poles? Is it worth immersing ourselves in Cardinal Karol Wojtyła's poem, Contemplating Fatherland? Fatherland, this land's call to our ancestors and to us to decide about joint welfare and our own speech, as if it were a banner singing of the deeds of the nation.
I mową własną, jak sztandar, wyśpiewać dzieje.
After Mass, a multitude of delegations with standard and wreath bearers head for the entrance to the underground crypt. The first to lay a wreath will be the President, Andrzej Duda. But right behind him, a huge crush develops. Ernestyna can't cope with the crowds and falls behind. However, the Australian delegation, together with the American contingent, is able to push through the narrow staircase to the crypt and finally pay their respects to Tadeusz Kosciuszko. It is but a short moment, yet one to remember for the rest of one's life. From the crypt, everyone emerges into sunlight, entering the Wawel Castle gardens. The extensive grounds are filled with hundreds of scouts, to whom President Andrzej Duda addresses a speech.
Już dzisiaj na to moje wezwanie, na tą moją prośbę odpowiadacie, inaugurując te wielkie obchody stulecia odzyskania niepodległości przez polskie państwo. Inaugurujecie je w dniu niezwykle szczególnym, a zarazem można powiedzieć symbolicznym i pięknym. W dniu 200. rocznicy śmierci Tadeusza Kościuszki. Tadeusza Kościuszki, którego życie otwierało walkę o odzyskanie niepodległości, suwerenności przez Rzeczpospolitą. Rzeczpospolitą, która na jego oczach tą niepodległość traciła, z czym on nie mógł się pogodzić.
Tak, stając do walki w 1792 roku, w wojnie przeciwko carskiej Rosji, jak i wzniecając insurekcję kościuszkowską w 1794 roku. Nie wygrał, ale położył kamień węgielny pod walkę o niepodległość. Tym swoim pierwszym powstaniem, tym, że był jednym z pierwszych, którzy otrzymali order Virtuti Militari po bitwie pod Zieleńcami.
Snap, a photograph with the scouts is snapped as a memento just before the presidential couple approaches. The president greets the Aboriginal members of our delegation in English. We frantically recount how Acacia guided Professor Rokosz up to the peak of Mt Kosciuszko through a snowy blizzard.
Hello. Thank you for your visit.
Cynthia from the United States.
Autorka książek z Australii, polonijnych.
Wspaniałym człowiekiem. Przewodniczka Góry Kosciuszko.
Profesora Rokosza prowadziła na górę.
Akacja wprowadziła mnie na Górę Kosciuszko w zimie, w warunkach zimowych. Chciałem na nartach, ale tak.
Great challenge.
Nadzieję do rodziny, ludzi. Panie prezydencie, pani prezydentu, cieszymy się Państwa obecnością na tym. Ustąpicie
Z Państwem idziemy. Będzie Państwa widać.
Proszę się tu przesunąć.
A co widzicie?
Cóż, jesteśmy po konferencji, międzynarodowej konferencji z okazji stulecia śmierci Kościuszki. Konferencja była zatytułowana Integracja wokół Kościuszki, on do całego świata należy. Była bardzo liczna delegacja z Australii, a pośród tej delegacji było 6 przedstawicieli rdzennej ludności australijskiej, z klanu, szczepu, plemienia NGARIGO, które od tysiącleci zamieszkuje obszar gór śnieżnych, na terenie których wznosi się najwyższa góra kontynentu, nazwana przez Pawła Edmunda Strzeleckiego w 1840 roku Górą Kościuszki. Zależało nam bardzo na tym, żeby oni właśnie przyjechali tutaj, nauczyli się wypowiadać imię Kościuszki, przekonali się, że gdyby generał Kosciuszko był na kontynencie australijskim w XVIII wieku, wtedy kiedy Cook zdobywał Australię dla kontynentu brytyjskiego, to byłby na pewno przyjacielem i obrońcą aborygenów. I przedstawicielka właśnie tego klanu powiedziała, że wraca do Australii i rozwodzi się z mężem. A ja się pytam dlaczego, a my się pytamy dlaczego, bo zakochała się w Kościuszce.
In the evening, all of the conference attendees meet in the cosy restaurant Our Good Grain, Dobra Kasha Nasha, where we consume our farewell dinner hosted by the Kosciuszko Mound organisation. In an atmosphere of complete fraternity, we party into the wee small hours, forgetful that, at dawn, a small bus will be arriving to take us to the Warsaw airport. From there, from altitudes enjoyed by fluffy clouds, we will be looking out for the peak of our Mt Kosciuszko. There are only 11 days left before the commencement of the festival in Jindabyne, where we will once again be reunited with our Aboriginal friends and be able to reminisce about this historic visit to the Kosciuszko Mound. The festival will display photographs from our expedition to Poland, honey to our hearts, because on these pictures it shows how Poland treated our friends like royalty.
Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. The roar of the cannon to the beat of the drum. I beg Mr. Jefferson that he may come, as I'm dying beneath an alien sun. No other disposition in honor hard won, but freedom and liberty in my name, with a human heart as the guiding flame. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. White and red banners or starred blue sky above boundless fields of wheat and rye, pristine forests and orchards, rivers whereby no other disposition in honor comply, but freedom and liberty in my name, with a human heart as the guiding flame. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Lithuania, my father, toiling in yoke. Poland, my mother, chained to the oak. My coal white Ruthenia, gone up in smoke. No other disposition in honor invoke, but freedom and liberty in my name, with a human heart as the guiding flame. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Slave, serf, or peasant, red, black, or gold, redeemed from oppression, not to be sold, but empowered by learning with means to hold. No other disposition in honor devolve, but freedom and liberty in my name, with the human heart as the guiding flame. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Snow-feathered eagles soaring in might, leading the rider until they unite, allied together in angelic delight. No other disposition in honor ignite, but freedom and liberty in my name, with a human heart as the guiding flame, with a human heart as the guiding flame, with the human heart as the guiding flame. Ratatatam, 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 tatam. Ratatatam,